Hey, hope y'all are doing okay. This is my first attempt at a video, so I'm sure it's going to be very awkward and cringy. And I apologize for laying down, but my baby is not having it any other way. So I just thought that maybe doing this might help me sort of work through some issues, and maybe I could help somebody else that might be going through the same issues. And it's about postpartum anxiety and depression and how it affects everyday life and how it can make having a normal life completely impossible at times. It's very isolating. It makes you feel like you're crazy. Some other people think you're crazy when you call your pediatrician every other day and just because your kid has a cough or they sneezed or they came home and said they were tired. So they're a kid. They're going to be tired. Maybe they played harder at school. But that's not what your brain tells you. Your brain tells you, oh my God, they have caught some god-awful disease and they are going to die. And there's not going to be anything I can do about it. And you just sit there stuck with these horrible thoughts swirling in your head. And it doesn't matter what you do. You have this constant fear that one of your kids is going to die. And it's just this endless circle, never ending. So maybe I should start at the beginning. I've had depression and anxiety for a long time. And I was diagnosed with depression, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, and OCD, a little over 11 years ago, surrounding an incident that I'm not going to get into, but that, I'm sure, kind of exacerbates what's going on now. I had my son, who was my first child, September 6th, 2012. And now that I really think back on it, maybe it started then, because I couldn't look at him in the eyes, because I just had this certainty that he wasn't going to make it, that I was going to wake up and find him dead, or that somebody was going to drop him. I was going to drop him and it was going to kill him. Stuff like that. I don't really remember being afraid that he was going to get sick that time, but mostly SIDS and injury, like being dropped. I was terrified he was going to get dropped. And then I was diagnosed with postpartum depression when he was 6 months old. And they added another antidepressant to what I was already taking. And I worked through that fairly well. That was just a lot of sadness. I was sad a lot. I was crying a lot, and that's what made me call my obstetrician, and they got me in that day, and went ahead and diagnosed me. But since then, I've been hypervigilant, and I've always just been terrified. Like, I would always be afraid that, like, I would picture him falling off the balcony at my husband's grandparents' condo. I didn't want him going out on the balcony because every time, just the thought, the vision of seeing him fall off the balcony, like all the way down, 4 stories, all the way down, hitting the concrete, me running down and finding him, going through the funeral, coming home, and his stuff being there and him not. Oh, I was doing all of that then. And once that thought hit, it was like a record that was skipping. It would just on a loop over and over and over. And I remember hitting myself in the head a couple of times to try to kind of knock the thought out. I remember being on a boat when he was 2, and I kept seeing him fall and roll underneath the guardrails on the boat and falling into the water and sinking and him looking for me and me not being able to find him. And that was really bad because it kind of played in my head all night. So really looking back on it, it all might have started back then, and I just didn't really realize what was happening. I mean, I knew that I kind of blamed it on my PTSD and just assumed that it was all tied into that. I didn't even know there was such a thing as postpartum anxiety. I knew there was postpartum depression, but I didn't know there was an anxiety side to it. And since I already had anxiety, panic attacks, all of it, I already had all that. I think kind of maybe I was predisposed to develop the postpartum anxiety. But I had, after my son, I had my daughter 2.5 years later in February of 2015. And with her, I didn't, it's almost like it kind of calmed down. I don't remember being terrified all the time with her. I was pretty happy with her. I was pretty content. I mean, I had the fears were still there and kind of the thoughts were still there, but it wasn't this overwhelming, life-altering kind of thing. It was manageable after her. And it kind of stayed that way. I was still medicated. I was still taking my antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and also the doctor that prescribed it to me said that it was an antipsychotic. But what I've seen, I think it's more of an antidepressant with antipsychotic properties, and the whole purpose of it is it blocks blocks the pathways or something for flashbacks and interrupts the intrusive thoughts that get kind of on repeat. It's supposed to kind of interrupt those and kind of stop the loop or make it easier for me to stop the loop. And it actually does help. But I can't take it right now because I have my new baby and she sleeps with me. So I can't take anything that makes me drowsy or kind of makes it hard for I can't go into a very deep sleep while she's next to me because, I won't be able to stay as alert with her. So while still taking all that, we decided to have one more. I'm kind of skipping around. After I had my daughter, we decided to have one more, which is this little girl right here. And the pregnancy was kind of nerve-wracking. I had a lot of bleeding episodes, and I'd already had 2 previous miscarriages, so there were several times that I thought I was losing her, so that was pretty stressful. But overall, as far as anxiety and everything is concerned, it wasn't that bad at the time. It was just kind of my regular, which was a lot of anxiety, but it wasn't. I had a decent quality of life then. She was also a February baby, so in November, I was pretty pregnant at that point. And the day after Thanksgiving, a little 2.5-year-old girl in my daughter's dance class died. She had thrown up during her afternoon nap and aspirated, and she died. So, it was almost immediate. After I found that out, I went into an immediate panic attack, hyperventilating, hysterical. Texted my husband. He called me, and he had to calm me down. Thank God the kids were asleep at the time, or that would have scared the crap out of them. But, and after that, it kicked into high gear. I was getting up 2, 3, 4 times a night, checking on the kids, especially my daughter, who was also 2.5 at the time, almost 3. Just making sure that they were still breathing. And then the intrusive thoughts and the visions of them getting hit by a car, pulling away from me when, we parked, and running out in the street and getting hit by a car, or getting attacked by a non-existent random stray dog, and me not being able to pull the dog off of him, or, the first bite being a fatal bite, or you name it. I thought it. We have some posts in the backyard, picture him falling and getting impaled on a post. It's constant, all day, every day, and because of it, I don't let him play outside much, especially not in the front yard, because the front yard's not fenced. And even though we live on a circle, so traffic is almost non-existent, I still picture them running out in front of a car, getting hit, me running over there, uh, looking at them while they're dying. Then, in the backyard, we've got them a little, kind of mini jungle gym thing with a rock wall and slide and, a couple of swings. And I don't take them out there very often because I picture them falling off of that and breaking their neck. Or, the backyard is where we have kind of the extra fence that keeps the dog in because he digs and gets out, and we can't have that. So that's what I picture them falling and getting impaled on. I can't take them to. Well, I can, but since I had the baby, it's kind of happened tenfold. As a little girl dying, and then almost, I guess 2.5 months later, I had the baby, and it was almost immediate after she was born. I mean, it went from 0 to 100. And it was so bad with her in the first, couple of weeks. The first week, it actually sent me to the emergency room because I thought I was dying. And I called my OB and told them what my symptoms were. And they thought I had a pulmonary embolism because I was having shortness of breath and high heart rate. No, low heart rate, actually. It was low. Like 50, 48, 50, something. Usually mine's between 80 and 90. And heaviness in my chest. And they told me to go to the emergency room, which I did, and they ran all kinds of tests, and there was nothing wrong with me. They said that they thought it was anxiety related and advised me to go back and see my obstetrician again, which I did. That's when they put me on an anti-anxiety med that I can take, while breastfeeding. And that helped enough to where I don't have as many of the physical symptoms. I still have headache and heart palpitations and some lightheadedness. Those are kind of my physical symptoms. Mental symptoms, still have those. Still have the intrusive thoughts, and I'm not in a constant state of panic anymore, but it's still a constant fear. I've had several panic attacks, thinking that, with the whole kind of flu epidemic that was happening this year, and my son being in preschool, I was sure that he was going to catch the flu, and he was going to bring it home, and he was going to give it to the newborn, and she wasn't going to be able to make it, and I was going to lose her, and what if I lost him too? What if he gave it to my now 3-year-old? And, constant. What I wouldn't give for just a normal thought process, for just a little while. It's exhausting. And when it starts to make you take away from your kids' lives. But I kept my son out of preschool for a while because I was so scared of the flu. And when it starts making you hold your kids back from things, I didn't take him to some birthday parties because I was afraid he was going to catch the flu. And that's not right. I can't do that. I have to let him live, be a kid, play, do things, do fun, exciting things, ride a horse, which terrifies me, even though I grew up riding horses. Now, my husband and my kids, I don't want them on horses. I don't want them riding horses. I mean, maybe partially because I know how dangerous they can be. I got thrown several times and almost broke my back once. But I have to, I have to let them live normal, fun lives. And I can't keep holding them back. So, I had previously tried seeing somebody, talking to somebody, after the incident that caused my PTSD. And it didn't really do anything for me. But I have to try again. I have to do it for my sanity, my husband's sanity. Most importantly, I have to do it for my kids. Because that's what's the most important to all of us, is our kids and their safety, but especially their happiness. We can't keep them in a bubble. We can't keep them locked in the house with the windows barred and the doors locked and never let them out, never let other people in. That's not okay. So I've made an appointment with a psychiatrist to handle the medication aspect of it. And I've also made an appointment with a therapist. And we will see if we can't get some of this under control before I lose my mind. It's already what made me call was the thought ran through my head of not that I was going to try to kill myself, but the thought went through my head that, wow, if this is how I'm going to have to live the next 50, 60 years, wow, I'd be better off dead. And the second that thought went through my head, I thought, oh, okay, I got to do something. I have to do something about this because it's getting, well, it's been way out of control, but it's getting to that point where it's starting to get desperate. If I'm starting to think I would be better off dead when I have 3 beautiful kids, a loving husband, great family. Just that thought alone is ludicrous. And I know that. But it didn't stop it from going through my head. So I see the psychiatrist on the 30th of this month. And then I see the therapist May 19th, I think. I've got the email. But I will keep y'all updated on kind of how everything goes. I'm going to try to do at least 1 video a week. Maybe more if I have an especially hard day. Kind of use y'all. This is kind of my therapist, I guess. But we'll see how it goes. I hope. If you're watching this, I mean, obviously, the thoughts crossed your mind that maybe you might have some postpartum issues. So just know you're not alone. There's a lot of us out here. And if you don't have a supportive husband like I do, you don't have a supportive family, I'm here. Feel free to message me, comment. I'm here. So, I guess I'm going to end it there. Sorry this video has been so erratic. There was, a lot to cover. And I have no idea what I'm doing with it being my first video. But if you made it this far, thanks for hanging in there. And I will see you next time. Bye.